It's Social Pulse Weekly, brought to you by Agorapulse. With special guest, Ursula Ringham. Discussing this week's hottest topics and latest developments in social media marketing. With your host, Jennifer Watson. Here's Social Pulse Weekly.
Hi guys, welcome to Friday, the first Friday in December. Thank you guys so much for joining us. This is Social Pulse Weekly, your all-in-one social media live show where we have an expert guest interview every single show, and we have an amazing one on for today. We also talk about the latest social media news, and we have a little fun with a little bit of trivia. So welcome. How are you guys doing? And can you believe that it's actually December and almost the end of a decade? When you hear decade, you're like, how did I begin this decade? I started this decade graduating from graduate school. Now, to keep in mind, this is a two-way conversation. So we want to know who you are, where you're from, and how did you start this decade? I'm very curious. I was graduating from Mississippi State with a graduate degree in meteorology because I am a meteorologist, but now I'm the social media specialist at Agorapulse. So welcome everyone. We've got Evie here. Hey, how are you guys? So let us know how you started off this decade. We'd love to know. And also your biggest success this week. This week has been kind of crazy, I think, for a lot of people, especially in the US, coming off of Thanksgiving break and everything like that. And we've got 1 month left. And a lot of people are taking Christmas week off as well, including myself. So we're trying to rush and just get everything done. So let us know your biggest success, where you're from, how you're doing, and get ready to ask some questions. We have an amazing guest here on the show, but I want to give a special shout out to, of course, the godfather of Agorapulse, Mr. Mike Alton. He is producing the show behind the scenes. So a big thank you to him. And also our show sponsor, Brian Fanzo. He is going to be answering comments and kind of driving the conversation. He's an amazing keynote speaker. He's just incredible, has several podcasts. Ask him anything about social media, digital marketing, and he has the answer. So Brian, thank you for joining us. And I want to bring on our guest. So she is incredible. I met her 2.5 years ago at Social Media Marketing World. We're actually on the same live video panel. Now, this is Ursula. She's an innovative leader within influencer marketing, social media, live video, and digital marketing. She's an early adapter in utilizing the latest technologies to generate awareness and to build community. And good storytelling is at the core of everything she does. And she's the head of global influencer marketing at SAP. She's kind of a big deal. And I'm so lucky that actually I know you, Ursula. She previously worked at Adobe and Apple in their developer relations organizations, helping companies bring products to market. And on top of that, and Ursula, you're going to have to correct me when we pop you on here, because I did not realize that you write thriller novels about the high-tech industry on the side. That's something fun you like to do. I feel like you maybe told me that, and I somehow kind of forgot about that. But tell us a little bit about the thriller novels, and then we're going to dive right into like the interview and the conversation.
It sounds good. And real quick, hi, everyone. Just that, where were you at the start of the decade? I was at home with kids, believe it or not. And we'll get into that in a little bit. But the thriller novel, it's one of those things that my mind always is thinking of various things and conspiracies and mysteries. And I'm always drawn to that. And about 10 years ago, I was in earnest. I said, well, let me write this. So I wrote a book called Privileged Corruption. It takes place in Silicon Valley. So as I say, I like to write about the insidious side of Silicon Valley. It's about a young gal at a startup, and right before going to IPO, she finds out something, there's a murder, and it's like, do you remain quiet? Because if you do, you're going to get your IPO and all of this money, or do you say something? So anyhow, it's on Amazon, and I continue to be with the writer community and writing, but with my day job, it's so busy. So I wrote a book about AI and the insidious side of that and high tech and VR. And my editor was like, let's just put it on the back burner for right now, because I just need, I need time for it. So I'm actually looking into, I've got a nonfiction that I've also going to be starting to pitch at the beginning of the year to some publishers. So I won't go into too much detail about that now. Maybe in a year you'll have me back and I can talk about a book deal for that.
Oh my God, absolutely. Ursula, so you're going to have to send us the links after the show so we can post them in the comments to your books. Or Brian, Google it. Look on Amazon and put the
Just look
links
on
in the
Amazon.
comments.
You'll find
We're going
it.
to give
Yeah.
Brian a job. But we've got Juan here. Juan, hello. Evie, Terry Johnson, how are you doing? Terry, where are you from? We've got Karen. She's starting my marketing company in St. Louis. And you know what? The godfather of Agorapulse is also in St. Louis. So Karen, thank you for joining us. Evie in 2000 was still in Germany, not having a clue where I could end in 2019. So much has changed. Evie, I have so much to tell you about that too. So much has changed. Brian's joining us from DC. Roberto from Lima, Peru. Did I say that right? Is it Lima, Peru or Lima?
Lima.
Lima.
I think it's Lima.
Roberto, I've actually been there before and it's beautiful. I had some of the ceviche. Is that what it is? The seafood that's
Ceviche.
yeah,
Ceviche.
yeah, in the vinegar or whatever. It's amazing. So Roberto, thank you. We've got also Jen as well. Hey, I'm so glad you guys are here. Terry's in New York City. So I'm so excited. Ask your questions. This is going to be awesome. So
Yeah, ask questions. Ask questions.
yes, this is a conversation and this is like, we want to have a fun way to end your week. And we know it was a crazy week. So hopefully you can just watch and enjoy and while you're still doing a little bit of work too. But anyway, so Ursula, you have an amazing resume. Can you talk us through what you do working at Adobe, Apple, SAP? How did you get started in the industry and how did you move along your course like you did and move up?
Yeah, so it's actually interesting. I look back, I'm like, wow, how did this even happen? It started out when I was 20. I was just finishing my sophomore year at college. I went to UC Davis down here in California. And I was looking for a job. I was kind of in between jobs. I'd been doing kind of like the teenage summer type jobs, working at Stanford University in their food service. And luck would happen that one of our family friends happened to call my parents and said, "What's Ursula doing this summer?" "Oh, she's looking for a job." "Well, you know what? We need some good, young talent at our startup. It's a small company, but we're growing. Why doesn't she come in and interview?" And at the time, I didn't know what software or hard was, which is kind of funny now when you think about it. I was an international relations major, and I thought I'd go work at the UN or World Bank or be a diplomat. And so anyhow, I went down to interview, and long story short, I got a job in inside sales for a small company called Adobe. And it's just funny to think back then. It was like this small company. It was actually really cool because the environment was so collaborative and you had all of the founders there. And ironically, I was actually the same age as some of the founders' kids that were now working. They were in their 20s and also working at the company. So it was a great learning experience. And I did that for 2 summers as an intern. And then anytime we had holidays. And then I graduated from college, traveled for 6 months, which is another story for another time, which is pretty awesome. I made all this money from these jobs, and then I'm like, I'm going to go travel the world. And then I came back and worked some startups, went back to Adobe in developer relations, and that was fascinating. It was at a time when Adobe needed developers to create these plugins to augment the products like Photoshop. So I did that for several years, became manager of the developer program, became the editor of the technical journal. And then a time came with a shift, and I decided to leave Adobe and become a trainer of their software products. So believe it or not, they had a product called FrameMaker. They acquired it. And this was think of it as like a Quark Express or I don't even know like the page layout programs they have for books now. But back at the time, this was something that the tech industry for all the technical manuals and stuff would use. So it was a great way to have my own kind of consulting firm on the side, and I became certified in it. But then what happened is 8 months later, a girlfriend from high school called and said, "Hey, Ursula, what are you up to?" And I told her my experience, and she's like, "You know what? Steve Jobs just came back to Apple. It's a great time to work here." And the funny thing, no one at that time wanted to work at Apple. Why work at Apple? Struggling company. Yeah, Steve Jobs is back, but who cares? And I decided to take a chance. And I went to interview, and I had 2 different interviews, had 2 different job offers. And the one I took was to manage their developer website. And I chose that because they said that they would train me on HTML because I didn't know it. And I didn't have to do a lot of programming, but it was mainly managing all of the technical documents and everything. But it was my foot in the door. And after about a year doing that, I got approached by the partnership management side, like the evangelist side. And it was great because they said, Ursula, you have kind of the personality for the partnership manager role. And the role was you had to go out and convince people to develop for Mac OS 10. And so the crazy thing is you think today, you're like, oh, come on, everyone is wanting an app on the iPhone, right? This is before iPhones. And so our job was to go out and convince people. But then the fun part also was we were kind of like these pseudo spies that we'd go to events to find out what's the cool new technology. And then there was one guy in Steve's team that we would, if we found something cool, we'd bring it back because maybe we might want to acquire it. So that was kind of my role at Apple, and I ended up managing some strategic accounts, such as like Avid and DigiDesign and Macromedia, if you guys can remember all those names back in the day. And my job was get their products on the platform. And so you had to go and convince the executives at that company. So you'd have to go and bring the correct, executives in to meet with them. You'd have to pitch them on it. You'd have to know, I was not technical, but you had to know enough to be able to explain it. And then you'd have to see if they decided to bite and like, yes, let's develop our product on your platform. Then you have to bring all the engineers together and make sure that they have everything they need. And then once the product is ready, how to go to market. So you have to work with the sales and marketing team. So it was a great catch-all to learn a lot. And as I say, my training wheels came off at Apple because you had to be top-notch and understand everything. And so right when Apple was starting to take off, right before the iPhone, I became pregnant. And I decided that my husband and I decided I'd stay at home with kids. And so I stayed home with kids for like 6 to 8 years. And during that time, that's when I pursued my book writing. And then I decided I wanted to get back in to high tech. And I started reaching out to all of my friends that were at Adobe, Apple. Now some had gone into Google, Yahoo, all these different companies. And no one wanted to hire me. They're like, you've been out of the game too long. It's too late. And I was like, are you kidding me? And it's interesting because anyone who has taken any time off of work, and I don't care if it's for kids, taking care of parents, maybe out of illness, you have a hunger to get back into it. And we're going to work probably 5 times as hard as someone who's currently in the job because we really want this. But no one wanted to take a chance on me. And what happened was just through connections, I would take any kind of job. So I started doing recruiting. I'd never done that, but this one gentleman took a chance on me. And the great thing was for him, it was on commission. So it was no skin off his back if I didn't bring in any deals, but I did. And so I did that for a while, and that opened up my network. I had to connect with everyone. So on LinkedIn, I was able to grow my network. I got to engage with interesting companies because I started recruiting just for all these different companies. And then I took on just little like side campaigns, any kind of marketing campaigns, just something to put on my resume. And then what was it, about 7.5, almost 8 years ago, I was at a girls' weekend. We were doing a mini triathlon. And that's another part of my life for another live stream. But I was talking with a girlfriend, and Rebecca is her name. And I was telling her, gosh, I'm trying to get back into high tech. And she's like, well, you wrote a book, right? I'm like, yeah. She's like, you can write customer success stories. I'm like, sure I can. Had I ever done it? No, but I'm sure I can do it. And she basically said, well, I need a contractor to write stories. Why don't you come down and let's get you hired here at this company called SAP. And I had no idea what SAP was. And I came in as a contractor writing customer success stories. And my job was I had to call the customer, talk with them, but then also work with product marketing. I had an editor. I had different templates I had to use to write the stories. And the great thing with SAP is even though I was a contractor, they treated me like a full-time employee. So I started off part-time and then I went full-time because they liked my work. And I meant like full-time employment, like not working for SAP, but still a contractor. But they treated me like one of their own. And I was invited to offsites and whatnot. And one day my VP pulled me aside and said, Ursula, I looked at your LinkedIn profile. You worked at Adobe, you worked at Apple. Do you think you could do more? I'm like, yes, I can. And she's like, we've got these 2 interns that are managing our small and mid-sized business social channels. Do you think you could do it? Yes, I can. Because in the spare time with my book, I had learned about social media and what I was supposed to do there. But then she gave me the opportunity of like, these are yours, do something with it. So can you imagine out there with our audience, if someone is like, here's some channels to manage, you're going to dig in. I mean, I wanted to do the best I could. So I started off where I created a program called Amp It Up. And the idea with Amp It Up is we've got to create really good, engaging content and put a strategy around what we are putting out on our social channels to help grow them, to help build awareness that SAP, this large organization, actually has a small business area. And so I would put together thought leadership pieces with our executives. And we had a schedule, and I was ghostwriting and helping them with it, helping their brands also. And then I work with our product marketing. And eventually it morphed into creating this whole digital marketing strategy. And I did incorporate influencers also at the time. And so it kind of took off. And then the team I was on imploded. And I had some stakeholders that were really interested in what I was doing. And Megan Sullivan, I'm going to give her a shout out. She was one of these people, and Anthony Burgess. They took me aside and said, you know what? You're too good. We need to bring you in. And long story short, they hired me full time. I worked in Megan's organization for a good 5 years, did everything, podcasts, videos, live streams. And that's where Brian Fanzo and I met. And we could talk about that in a little bit. But I think the great thing was SAP let me be innovative. They let me be creative. And I gave back. I worked twice as hard because I really wanted this. So I was in the tweet chats. I was writing the social copy. So I was in the trenches doing everything around all these activities I was talking about. And then gradually I was able to get an intern. Gradually we were able to start using agencies. And then we, had this whole integrated program, which was fantastic. And then Jen, that's when I met you at Social Media Marketing World, is that people started to take notice, and they're like, we want you to come and start talking to people about what you're doing. And then a year and a half ago, I was approached within the company and asked to take on the head of global influencer marketing. And so that is where I am today. Whew! That was a long story. You should stop me. But,
Ursula, I love you. I think we're all just blown away by your resume. Like Brian Fanzo is like, what don't you do? You're a marketer, mother, leader, thriller, author, runner, skier, change agent, badass. Like seriously, I don't know what you don't do, Ursula. And we've also got Eugene with us. Hey, Eugene, thank you so much for joining. Deb Mitchell, she's amazing and incredibly awesome. And Evie said this. She said, amen. HR often just looks at the resume rather than the person and their drive. And so sad for them to miss out on amazing people. And I feel like now, like people, the whole old paper resume, like you really need to like have a video chat with them, talk to them, give them an assignment, really see what they're like and what they're capable of doing. And Don Stanley said, super cool story. Oh, Don is amazing too. He's incredible. Yeah.
And that's the one thing is, because I had those people out there helping me, I want to give back. I want to help. And so whenever I can, I've kind of become this pseudo mentor for a lot of people because people gave me a chance. They got my foot in the door. And so I'm one of those big proponents that call me up, connect with me, because I loved connecting the dots and making sure that, if you're a hard worker, let's help your career. Let's do something.
Yeah. Oh my, see, Ursula, you're so amazing. And, Alex Mitchell, I just finished my video intro with, Christelle. Oh, hey, Alex. So Alex is amazing as well. And I want to know to everyone that's watching, what is your biggest achievement of the decade? I'm curious to know that. And I'm going to let you think about that for a minute, but I have another question for you, Ursula. So our show sponsor, Brian Fanzo, who is helping answer questions and kind of facilitating some things in the comments. So he worked alongside with you, Ursula, at the Super Bowl. Was it 4 or 5 years ago? And you guys
had this 4. Yeah, it was a 4, Brian, because that's Super Bowl 50, which is crazy. SB 50.
Yeah. So I want to know, doing a live and setting something up like that for such a huge, big company, walk us through just some of the steps. What was it like? And beside the Super Bowl, what other big events were you like, holy crap, holy moly, like this is a big deal. I got to nail this. Like it's intense. It's a lot, but it's exciting at the same time.
So this is a very interesting story. And as I tell it, you'll understand how this all comes together. It's the whole thing of connecting the dots, right? The first thing was you have to get buy-in from your stakeholders that whatever project you want to do. And how do you get buy-in? So what happened was about 6 months before, or I think, Brian, maybe this was like 8 months before I had met you and Social Media Marketing World or something, we connected. And you and Dan Newman were doing this Cloud Talk live stream. And this is right at the start of live streaming with Periscope and Meerkat. Remember Meerkat? And then Blab was coming out. And Brian and Dan had this show, Cloud Talk. And I was looking for maybe like, let's do something with influencers and sponsor it. And so the great thing is we started doing these live streams. I think it was in August, and it was one a week, and we were sponsoring it. And it was all around these business challenges that our small businesses, affect them. And so it wasn't this huge sale on SAP. It was just, let's talk about these business challenges. And then the lead that you would connect people is the call to action. Then it goes to our website. So we started doing all of this, and my stakeholders liked it. Like, this is great. And then I attended in Palo Alto at our headquarters there. We had a Super Bowl kickoff. And I'm like, wow, this is fantastic. SAP is a sponsor of the NFL and of Super Bowl 50. And we had some of the 49ers there. Too bad the 49ers weren't in that Super Bowl. But, oh, great. My gardener's outside. So he's
I know,
blowing
it's like
stuff.
a live thriller
So
happening at this very moment.
It's a live thriller. If something happens to me, you'll find out.
We know it's gonna happen.
And so what happened was we finished this big presentation to all of the people in Palo Alto, and it was live streamed internally. And I'm sitting there going, are we doing anything around live streaming? And so I went up to our sponsorship team. It's the sponsorship team is like the coolest thing. This guy Bjorn runs it, and he's pretty awesome. And maybe I'll go work for him someday. But started talking to that team, and they're like, no, we haven't thought of anything around this. Because mind you, this was just in its infancy. Facebook Live was not there. Periscope was, and then it was Blab. And so what happened was he said, well, Ursula, if you think of something and you can get the funding, maybe we'll consider it. So I just went and I talked to Brian, I talked to Dan. I remember like Brian, it's so funny because when eventually it came to fruition, and I'll talk about it in a second, he's like, Ursula, how'd you make this happen? I'm like, I don't know. But what I did was behind the scenes, I had built up the credibility with doing the cloud talk with Dan and Brian. So we could show the results, like, look what this is happening, how many click-throughs, how many people are viewing it, whatnot. So there was interest. And then the whole thing came down to, well, how are you going to pay for this, right? And the idea was, what happened was you can't do live streaming at the Super Bowl, right? In the NFL, you couldn't do that. But leading up to the Super Bowl was this week that every wherever the city that's hosting the Super Bowl, they have a week leading up to it where a lot of people come into town. And the 5 days before, they had down at Philadelphia, no, what was it? It was down at the clock tower there. Jen, I should have prepared better for this. I can't remember where it was.
Great. You're doing amazing.
But they had this whole area where all of these big brands would come, and they're showcasing their different technologies and whatnot. So you had Levi there, you had, SAP, and it's thinking of like, it was an outdoor kind of like event where you'd come and you could see like the latest cool stuff that SAP is doing. Believe it or not, we do cool stuff. So we had some activations, and you could sit there and you had the VR glasses and you're seeing people throwing the football, and we're analyzing like the data around it. And I said, well, why don't we do like a live streaming show from that Super Bowl city? Let's do it. And once again, my stakeholders that like me was like, well, that's great, but how are you going to pay for it? So I decided that for SAP, we have what are called partners, and partners are the people the companies that help implement our software, and they're a big part of the ecosystem, huge. And so what I did is I said, let's have this whole, like, it was called SB50 Disrupt, and how SAP and partners are helping disrupt digital transformation and helping these companies digitally transform. And so what I did was at the end of the year, because Super Bowl's in February, I went out and started pitching this to all of, like, within SAP, all of the people that own the partnership relationships. And we started talking with them, and through Dan and myself and Brian, putting together this whole outline of what we wanted to do. Long story short, we were able to do 5 days of live streams. So 4 streams a day. We sold them in packages. So each partner had a certain day where they owned, and all the content for that day was going to be around them. And back then, live streaming, you did it for like an hour. So we did 4 live streams a day, and we did it from Super Bowl City. So the cool thing was, and mind you, there's so much that happened behind the scenes. I mean, Brian, we should write a book about it because it was pretty funny. I mean, we were in it. We had to last minute get things. And then also the weather. Hello, we didn't realize it's mid-February. It might rain, it might be cold. We had so many crazy things happen. But the bottom line was we did 4 live streams a day with Blab. And the Blab platform, you could actually see how many people were attending. And we had thousands of people attending our live streams. And this was like unheard of. And so what happened was I had our partners sponsor it. We were able to pay for our influencers, our equipment, everything we needed. And we did 5 days of content. I think we had 20 live streams, and there was only one that had a little hiccup where the person, we had tested with them to make sure that they could connect, and something went wrong. He was in the wrong location, whatever. But Brian and Dan just got in there and they started talking about the topic. And we had one day where it rained and we had to, I mean, I could go on and on. We had so much fun with it. But that's a big project where the main thing is you have to get stakeholder buy-in. You have to have actually a really good plan coming together, put together the cost of how much it's going to be, then go pitch people on it. And at the time, I knew this, that our partners, they use MDF. And at the end of the year, they need to spend that MDF. So they were happy because like, oh my gosh, this is a great innovative campaign. And for them, it wasn't that expensive when you add up all the different activities they do. So they were able at the end of the year to say, hey, I have this last minute bunch of money here that we can spend. Let's do it. And so it's kind of like that thinking of knowing all the players involved and their pain points and challenges and what they want to accomplish. And so that was SB50 Disrupt was a pretty cool campaign. And the hashtag was the second most trending hashtag behind SB50, which was the Super Bowl hashtag. So I don't know if I did a good job explaining that, but it was very fun. It was a very fun campaign. And my whole thing is you just keep moving forward. And I think Brian will attest this, is that when anyone said no, I would say, how can we make it happen? And I would just go and talk to anyone because we had so many things behind the scenes that went wrong and no one would know when they tuned in. Like we were like going live and behind the scenes for 20 minutes before, we're like, oh my God. But then we figured it out and just went. And the funny thing was we were out in the cold, but you wouldn't know it. And then we looked over at CBS. So CBS had this like cocoon fish bowls all warm inside there, and they had their broadcasters. And we were kind of the janky, like kind of off to the side ghetto behind everything. And it was a great experience. So Brian, someday we've got to just have a live stream show about that because that was really fun.
We need to make it happen again, Ursula. I think that needs to happen. We need to do that again. Cause like, that's amazing. Just thinking about like, I love how you described it all, like 5 days, 20 different live streams. Like I get it from a standpoint of when I used to work at the Weather Channel and it's like crazy weather you're covering and you're just like, oh my gosh, like internet signal wind and it's just wild, it's just, and Brian described it as organized chaos, but it was awesome. And I love how you just kept moving forward. And that's what people don't realize about live video is just, you know what, things happen and that's okay. You just roll with it because it's
we had like the Stanford marching band. So we're like, let's take a time out. Hey, and then they would move the cameras. Everyone see this. And then they had like from the skyscrapers, they had people doing these like coming off on these wires and dancing on the side of buildings. And we just stopped. Hey, look at that. And that's the fun part of live. And it was just like, this is all in its infancy. Like, I can't believe this is 4 years ago. And here, like, we're doing live streaming and some companies are just getting into live streaming. It was pretty amazing.
And Don Stanley says, there's always a way. Love the attitude. # make it happen.
Make it happen.
Yeah, which is so true. And he also said one of his favorite quotes is, if you wish to persuade me, you must think my thoughts, speak my words, and feel my feelings. So that's very good. That's Aristotle. That's deep.
And it's interesting. I think that's one thing that Brian and Dan always bring up is like, I have a lot of passion. And so when I go to pitch different teams within an organization on a project I want to work on, I've done my research. I have, stats to back it up. I have examples of what we've done. And I come with this passion of I'm all in. I want you to be a part of it. And so that's part of this whole process of when you're trying to sell people on a campaign and a vision, you have to have passion.
Yeah. And I love that. And back to our question, when we were asking what people's biggest achievements were of the decade, Ursula can still think about it. But Kelly Noble Mirabella said having 2 kids. Yes, that's an amazing achievement.
Yes.
But also professionally, she got to teach the mini chat course on messenger marketing, which is incredible. Cool. So Kelly is also one of my good friends, and she's just amazing, a powerhouse. Like she sees her vision and she goes for it. If anything gets in her way, she's like, don't worry, I'll find another way. Like exactly like you, Ursula. You guys are really similar. So congratulations,
have to
Kelly.
Connect. Have to connect, Kelly.
Yeah. Yes, Kelly. Add Ursula as a friend on Facebook. Do something. Send your links. But she's she's amazing when it comes to messenger marketing and everything. And when it comes to how you did everything for the Super Bowl, it's all about creating experiences. And I think Brian talks about this a lot because millennials won't really pay for things anymore. They want to pay for experiences. You see millennials traveling a lot more and a lot younger into amazing places that like I never traveled traveled to or even dreamt of traveling to. I'm like, they're like 12 or you're, in their low 20s traveling to these places. And so, creating experiences is something that you can do. And that's what you did, Ursula, with these 5 different live streams, or 20, actually 5 days with 20 different live streams, which is incredible. And I want to know what kind of other big campaigns did you help initiate and do that were kind of similar to the Super Bowl?
Well, the one that we're working on right now, which is actually very cool, is called Tech Unknown. And the Tech Unknown series we started about a year ago. And we got our inspiration from Anthony Bourdain's Parts Unknown. So I'm sure everyone has watched that. Unfortunately, he's passed away. But the idea is that we want to send in these influencers to discover what is the latest technology. Are these discussions from the edge of next? And so if you look out there on the socials, the hashtag is Tech Unknown. You'll see that we've done a lot of videos. There's a lot of different blogs out there. And we've gotten a lot of good reception from this because we're not asking our influencers to go out and sell on SAP. It's more like we're here, we're investigating. And this campaign, we've been running it for, I said like a year now, and I'm waiting for my team. They're just going to come up with the end of year stats on this. So I'm really excited to be able to share this because it's a combination of awareness, but then also lead gen. So we'll have those stats. But, oh, and here comes my dog.
Oh, yay.
Came in here.
What kind of dog do you
Cooper.
have?
Cooper.
Oh my God. All right, so guys, hashtag, we do this with an Agora Pulse. Are you team cat or are you team dog? I want to know, team cat or team dog? Oh my God, hi Cooper.
This is Cooper. He's like, what are you doing, Mom?
Oh, he is so sweet. Oh my God.
Anyhow, so sorry, back to the question. So with Tech Unknown, what we've done there, it was a combination of videos and then there's blogs and then we have a podcast. And season 1 podcast finished, I think, by like July or something like that. And then season 2, we just launched and it's fantastic. It's really great. We have Tama McCleary is our host for that. And with that campaign, it was a matter of, I think, credibility, looking at what I've done in the past, putting together a programmatic approach, putting together this whole strategy and plan, and then pitching it to the various teams. Because mind you, I have budget, but I can't pay for everything. It has to be kind of a crowdsource funding here. And so I go to the various teams and I pitch them and I explain what we're going to do. And then people inevitably, I convince them, let's do this. And so the great thing is it's all thought leadership, but we base it on different parts of the organization, different, we have our product marketing teams, but then you can put those into thought leadership. I think that we call them, what are we calling them now? Hold on a second. We're calling them business outcomes. So it's kind of like, what are those business challenges that people have? And within the SAP, there are 6 different areas. So it might be HR, it might be the finance side of things, it might be the CX side of it. So think of it like that. And so the podcast, we have different, different episodes about that, which is great. And then the videos, we go out to all different events. And I can't even remember how many videos we did this year. I mean, we must have done 120 videos, something like that, and worked with, I don't know, 25, 30 different influencers. And to take on that type of campaign, it's a lot of work behind the scenes because you're writing the story. Every single asset you create has to have a good story. And it can't just be selling SAP because then people will tune out. So with that campaign, I don't have anything to share right now because we're in the process of getting the stats, which I'm excited to share. But that was all around awareness and then having some lead gen there and getting SAP's name out there, right? That's a big thing right now. SAP is the biggest company in the world that no one knows anything about but uses every day. I don't know if your audience knows this, but 77% of all the world's transactions go through SAP. So at some point during the day, you're probably using it and don't know it. And so all these campaigns that we're doing, like around the Tech Unknown brand, is to just build that awareness to an audience that might not know anything about SAP. So we talk about the business challenges. We work with these influencers that have an engaged audience around how technology is changing business. And hopefully, we're seeing some good results and getting SAP's name out there.
Uh, See, Ursula, you need to write a book about influencer marketing and getting like executive buy-in because you've done so many campaigns and done so much and you're very innovative with your thinking. And I love that. And when you say those stats about SAP, you don't realize it. And I love how you're kind of changing the way the entire world thinks about SAP. You're humanizing the brand in everything that you do, which is fascinating.
Yeah.
And
And
awesome.
the humanizing part, this is like funny. I'll give an example. We have our biggest event of the year called Sapphire. And if we're doing a video interview with one of our executives, I'll on the side say, hey, can we do a quick boomerang? Because you want to show kind of that human side. And the funny thing is, we had this one executive, and she's very buttoned up and very conservative. And I was showing her comms people and staff, hey, we want to do this boomerang challenge because some of our influencers did a little, shimmy, and then it was like, would challenge the next influencers who did it better, and then it builds and builds. So this one influencer, and then Ronald Van Loon, our influencer, with his executive, I went to her, and everyone's like, Ursula, don't ask. She's too conservative. She won't do it. And I just went to her and I pitched it, and I said, we'd really like you to do this. It would be really fun. And she looked at me, and she's very quiet, and everyone's silent. And she's like, I will do it, but only if I can belly dance. And everyone was like, what? And so the fun thing is we had this great boomerang with her and Ronald Van Loon, and it was in front of our big signage and it had all these lights. And there she is like doing like a belly dance. And that humanizes them, right? And so you have to show the fun side along with the business side, because then people are more apt to then pay attention to what they're saying if they can relate to them.
Exactly. And I love how I think always too is ask the executives, because I think a lot of times, working at a corporation or even Emmerich, at Agorapulse, he would probably do anything I asked. Maybe, I don't know. Hopefully he's watching this. but ask, and you'd be surprised, I think, with your executives or your boss, like, they're like, oh yeah, because they're loose and they just want to relax a little bit too. I mean, I'm sure they're stressed with a lot of different things going on. And so when you actually ask and you get that response, only if I can belly dance, like that's such a fun thing. So be fun, be creative. I think that's the big lesson here. And just ask.
And ask. Well, and the thing with asking that is so important is for me, hierarchy and titles, I'm like, ugh, I respect them, believe me, but it doesn't prevent me from going to ask. Because if you don't ask, you'll never know. And that's the same thing with influencers on social media. So many people are afraid to just ask them a question or engage with them. But you know what? If you do, they're probably going to remember, right?
Yeah.
And that's the main thing is, as you said, just ask. As Brian Fanzo would say, and I've adapted this in my presentation, just push the damn button. Just, you got to do something. You have to just get out there and try it.
Yeah. And Patricia said it perfectly. Keep the process human and real. Because we're all human, and Brian Fanzo said empathy is the common variable. This is so true. By the way, everyone is team dog. I don't think I've seen a team cat here. So yes, go team dog. Now, is Cooper a white lab?
He's an English golden retriever, and he knows we're talking about him. He's looking up. They're very mellow, very, very sweet. And he's my constant companion. I work out of my office here at home. And so he's always by my side. And when I have to travel, I think he's like, where did my mom go? What's going on?
He's so cute. And we have Ross joining us. Ross, thank you for joining us. Deb shared the link to your podcast.
Thank you, Deb.
Which is awesome. Yeah. Deb's amazing. So I can't wait to listen to that. I'm so excited. So Ursula, wow, we've been having an epic conversation.
Yeah,
I can't believe how fast time is flying by. So thinking ahead, I have multiple questions. So first, what do you think businesses and companies do wrong when it comes to influencer marketing? When you see an influencer marketing campaign and you're just like, ooh, they probably should have tried this or do this. What's the biggest mistake that companies and brands make when it comes to influencer marketing?
That's simple. It's the influencer. And I'm being real there. You have to find the right influencer. And it's not about the quantity of followers, it's the quality. And so whenever we're going to work with a new influencer, I put them on a list. I monitor, I watch, read, listen to all of their content, and I want to see who's engaging with them, who's that audience. If it's an echo chamber of their own friends and it's not like engaged audience, then you probably don't want to do that. And also, the content doesn't resonate with me. And so, that's the one, big mistake. And I think what's happening with trends right now is on the B2C side, the audiences and customers are becoming aware that maybe that influencer doesn't even like the product, but they're getting paid money to hawk it. And
Mhm.
that's gets into this whole thing of like how 2019 has really changed, where customers are basically helping, or they're part of the marketing effort. They're their own influencers, right? And they want things to be very authentic. And so I think that's the one thing that companies, when they work with influencers, they have to get the influencer correct. That's the big thing. And then second, you have to pair the influencer with the correct medium. You can't shoehorn someone in and say, do a video. Maybe they're not right for video. I've worked with influencers that, oh, I didn't like their video, but my gosh, their blog was awesome. So you know what? That's okay. I'll work with them on blogs. This person is better with podcasts. This is with videos. So work with the correct influencer and then map them to the correct medium, and then have them tell your story through their lens.
And I think you said it perfectly too. I watched you at Internet Summit when you spoke a couple weeks ago, and let them be themselves. Don't try and change and mold the influencer into something you want them to be. Accept them for who they are and let them be themselves, because it will be more organic, more authentic. And that's exactly what you're looking for, because customers can sniff from a mile away. You get a Kardashian using some kind of product or something, and you're just like, yeah, but do they really?
Yeah.
Probably not.
And
So
Don had a great comment here that his university students are very skeptical of influencers and their motivations. And Don, the big thing is there's a difference between B2C and B2B influencers. And I think 2020 is going to be the rise of the B2B influencer, because a lot of people don't understand the difference. The difference is a B2B influencer is someone that probably was a practitioner. Like, for example, they might have worked in HR for 20 years, and now they are going off. They consult with companies on what are the best HR products. They have a podcast around the future of work. They have a blog series. And so they are actually the legit real deal. And they're talking about business topics. So it's not hawking a product, it's talking about the topic. And then you might have an analyst that was at a big tier firm like a IDC or Gartner, now has gone off on their own, and they are creating their own content. Or you might have like a professor, or someone that has been in this thought leadership community writing, they've been researching about it. And so it's interesting for B2B, because our influencers, they're harder to find. And most likely the quality of their content is going to be better because they've been doing this for so long. So that's where I think 2020 is very interesting, that people are going to become more aware. And, we say influencers, but I see them as more thought leaders, to be honest, in the B2B space.
yeah, I would agree. Absolutely. 100%, Ursula. And I think just about everyone here would too. We've got some really good comments. Even Jeff, yes, people can smell BS from a mile away. Yes, no, you really can though. And Dawn said, yeah, although like you said before, they're very skeptical. And Dawn is such an amazing influence. Brian did something for him a couple months ago, and the students are still engaging with Brian. You got to pick the right influencer. Otherwise, it just doesn't really matter. So
no, and yeah, and to
yeah.
that point, I'm sorry to interrupt here. I'm like,
Yeah.
so exciting. We talked about this topic.
Yeah.
There was one influencer, we did this amazing campaign around the London Design Festival. It's all around plastics. And people were like, how does that relate to SAP? Well, tune in because it's pretty fascinating. But my point is, we work with Sally Eves, and she's an amazing influencer. And I was just talking to her this morning, and she's like, Ursula, the content we created, I'm sharing that everywhere I go because it relates to her brand and what she's trying to communicate about tech for good. And it's fun when we have that synergy with an influencer that's one and done, right? We want to continue to work with her, but then also the content we created with her, even though it's SAP content and it's through her lens, she's continuing to share it, right? And that's the type of influencer you want to work with. It's not just like, I paid to do this video, I'm off to the next one, right? It's a long-term relationship you want to have with your influencers.
And you said it perfectly. It's a relationship you're building with your influencers. It's just not a contract, like a one-time contract and you're one and done. You want an influencer. And I would think like repeat influencers are good, right, Ursula? Like having someone continually coming back that's powerful, that's using the product, I think is more positive than just a whole bunch of random influencers that are just like, okay, do they really care about it? Doesn't even make sense. So with that,
and that's where you have to have a strategy. You just have to put a strategy in place. It's not rocket science, but you got to get the right people. That's the key thing.
So thinking about 2020 and beyond, predictions. So where do you think influencer marketing is going? And should more and more people, because I think so, in the past, when I've heard of influencer marketing, I'm just like, oh my gosh, you have to have the big bucks, at least $250,000. We just don't have the budget. Even I'm sure a lot of executives think that. But there's micro influencers where it doesn't cost that much money and they may be more effective. But I'm interested to hear what your vision is for influencer marketing in 2020 and as we head into the next decade.
Yeah, very interesting. I think as I mentioned before, 2020 is going to be the year of like the B2B influencer. It's going to be different. People are going to see this in a different light. And we're doing a lot of things in 2020 that I don't really want to share right now because probably some of our competitors are listening in or watching. But we're going to do some pretty cool things. And that's where it's like, it's interesting in influencer marketing because you can't really benchmark on what you did the year before because you're going to change. Technology changes, attitudes change, how influencers are changing. Do you use high-priced video production crews? Or are you going to do more organic, raw, authentic videos just with your iPhone? So lots of different things there. The one thing though is I think there's going to be this merging between B2C and B2B influencers because I think some of the B2C are going to start to see, what's happening in the B2C, B2B area. Not that they can become it, but maybe we can combine them. And so there's a lot of things that we can do there. And I think the one thing all marketers have to take note of is everyone thinks they're an influencer. I mean, seriously, everyone, and mind you, everyone does have influence, but, we only have to look at, when that Peloton commercial came out, those are actors, but people were upset because it wasn't authentic. So it's very interesting that it wasn't a real person per se, but that authenticity has to be even at that level now, right? And people are getting mad about that being tone deaf. And I get the whole message. We're not going to go into that, but it's one of these things that marketers have to really look at the customers. It's all about how we're making them feel, how the products make us feel. And influencer marketing has to get into that also. How do they make their audience feel about what they're saying, right? And does it make them feel good? Do they feel angry? Because, Twitter, you're getting everyone out there saying anything. And especially it being an election year, it's going to be an interesting ride in 2020 to see what happens with everything.
So I'm so excited because also we have the Summer Olympics too. We've got
I forgot about that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, we've got so much going on. And Patricia, like you're so wise. You say this so perfectly. People reject manipulation. They demand real, making it count. And that is so true. And Mike, I think this is the godfather of Agorapulse talking that he's going to pick your brain after the show. He really is. And I want to talk, and I've had many Ursula and I, when we both spoke at Internet Summit a couple weeks ago, we had some amazing conversation. We had like 3 meals together. And I feel like I still want to learn more. I've learned so much more, even just talking to you right now. And Brian says authenticity is no longer a marketing buzzword, rather a customer-driven must-have. That's an amazing quote. Yeah, and that's so true. And Alex Mitchell said that's well said as well. So we are starting to, I'm probably going to ask you one more question. You guys, if you have questions about influencer marketing, anything that Ursula's done at SAP, ask them now because she is amazing. And B, hopefully I pronounced your name correctly, quoted you as well. Thank you so much for joining us, by the way. So if you have a question for Ursula, ask them because she is a wealth of knowledge. We're so lucky to have her. So make sure you ask her question right now. And I'm curious to anybody who's watching, have you run any influencer marketing campaigns yourself? And what is the most successful one? I'm very curious about anyone that's actually run an influencer marketing campaign. And to be honest, Ursula, I have never run an influencer marketing campaign. So hearing you talk about these things, I think is so fascinating. And I have a question. So for people, if you're a one-man band, social media, you work for a smaller company, what advice do you have? And you've done social media, you've done it all. What advice would you give them to think about in 2020 when you're trying to grow awareness for the brand, the company, the products? Whether it's social media, live video, video series, influencer marketing, what would be your biggest tips? Because I know it can be intimidating being a solo social media marketing, an all-in-one. But what tips do you have?
So I have great tips because the one thing to understand is when I started out at SAP in my role managing the social channels, it was me. That was it. And the small business side of SAP was kind of like the third rail out on the side, because we're not the big cash cow that brings in all the money. So I was kind of a startup on my own. So my tip is start small. I think a lot of people think, oh my gosh, I got to get this influencer program or social media and I got to do all this stuff. No, time out, start small. So even like in 2020, we're going to be doing this whole new campaign series, which I don't want to talk about. We're going to start small. We're going to start small. We're going to learn on it. And each quarter, we're going to build and build and build. And of course, each quarter is going to get bigger. But that's how you have to do this. You have to start small and then scale it, because you learn. I never like to say you make mistakes. You do lessons learned, because you would never know what would happen unless you do it. And that's the one thing, is you just have to try. So start small. So you have to look at, first of all, your audience. What type of medium do they like to consume? Okay. Because social media is the vehicle to get that content out. So first of all, what's the medium they like to consume? Is it a blog? Is it video? Is it audio, podcast, whatever it is? So let's say, for instance, it's a blog. So what you should do is just start doing a blog series. Maybe it's once a week, it's a blog. Maybe it's you blogging. Maybe it is one of your experts in your company. But get into a cadence. It has to be a regular cadence that people can get used to, because that's the one thing people always ask me, Ursula, how do I get more followers? You have to publish content. And you have to publish content that's authentic to you and who you are. And then you have to be just on a cycle of constant. I mean, Brian, you know this. Jen, you know this. You have to always have content, because your audience is hungry for it. We all love to, like, us people, we're our best news source, right? Just you love to consume whatever we're putting out there, because these are friends of yours. You want to read about it. So think of the same thing as a company. Start small and then build on it, and then you can set your benchmarks. So Q1 is where you get your results, and then you can benchmark it and say, okay, let's do 10% better next time. So I do this with my influencers. We sit down and we'll be like, okay, Q1, we had this blog series. It had this many views, this many click-throughs. How can we do 10% better? And so it's good to have a goal out there, right? To kind of push everyone that we want to exceed. So start small, look at your audience. What is the medium that they like to consume? And then just start doing it. And mind you, you don't have to have a big budget to do this. Paid media is so cheap, but you can just start with, like, as I said, ghost blogging for your executive. Or maybe it's you become the influencer within your company and you write a blog, but keep doing like the blog series. Maybe it's a video where once a week you're just doing, like Jen, you have Agora Pulse, you have this great Facebook Live. Hello? does this cost anything? Was I paid to come here?
I know.
No. And you know what I mean? And so and it gets back to your question, Jen, or your comment of just ask. Go talk to people. Go engage with influencers. Some of them will come on, and yeah, of course, I'll come on your live stream. Why not? I'll come on your podcast. Why not? So just put a strategy together, put a plan, get stakeholder buy-in, figure out the audience, the mediums they like, and just start doing it, and then scale it.
Ursula, I love you. You need to start a course, by the way. I think you need an online course. You need to do something. We have a couple of great questions, actually. So Elena Salazar asked, how do you incentivize B2B influencers differently than B2C influencers? It's a great question.
You know what? It starts, and then again, I start off small. So I start off talking with our B2B influencers, and I don't like to talk money, because I've had influencers, I'm just on for the first 5 minutes, and they're like, oh, by the way, I only do something for 200,000 to do a keynote, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, why am I even talking to you? And so the first thing I do, and Jen, you may need to comment about this, it's the relationship building. So I'm someone that I will first track this influencer to death. I want to know everything about them, all this stuff. So if I take the time to engage, I like so far what you've done. Now I want to know who you are as a person. And that's why with all my influencers, I connect with them on kind of the more personal side of Facebook is more personal, right, than like LinkedIn. And so can Instagram be, because I want to know who they are. I know a lot about my influencers and what's happening behind the scenes with their families and where they are and what's going. And what happens is then the relationships help build then how you're going to work with them, the scope of work. And so when I'm working with these micro influencers that may be just starting out, I say, hey, it's a win-win for both of us. We can publish your content on our platform, and that's going to give you some awareness. So we can start doing that. But then once they start doing a regular podcast, blog series, or maybe they're going to be our podcast host, or maybe they're going to do a whole video series, you should pay them for that. That's work. It shouldn't just be this whole thing of, hey, do these 5 videos for us and it's for free. I mean, would you do that yourself? And so I'm really a proponent of, I think maybe because I'm an author, it's like, do I want my book just, out there and people are downloading it for free. I worked a lot, really hard on it. If I'll give away some copies, but you know, if you want to read it, maybe you should pay for it. So I think of the same thing. And each influencer is different. There's no set like, hey, we got to pay this person this much. You have to build it small with each influencer, talk with them individually, figure out what's going to be, what are their challenges, what do they want to, how do they want to succeed with their brand? Is it a good match for you to collaborate with them? And then you go from there. So start small and then eventually work into some kind of contract with them.
And I think you said it perfectly before too, Ursula. Do your research, get to know the influencer. Don't just ask, like, just, see what they're all about. And like you said before, it's the quality, not the quantity of their following and their fans. And Brian also made a comment on this too. Funny enough, I think it's less about B2B versus B2C rather than creating different incentives for each influencer. As some want product versus others want word of mouth or want paid. It just completely depends. And Don Stanley said, scaling is the best way to do it. There's no education like education gained from an experience. And Brian said that's marketing gold. You guys are amazing. I love the conversation that's happening in our
This is great. I love it.
And Alex said, we've had the luxury of using physical product as part of our currency. And if you have an amazing product like that, definitely use that.
Yeah. I mean, our product, unfortunately, you can't touch it. You can't feel it. You can't see it. I mean, you can see it on your screen because ours is software behind the scenes. So we have the most difficult, job out there of trying to build awareness. So it is different. The B2B and B2C is very different.
And so a B asked, is there anything like influencer collabs for companies or small businesses on a budget? So influencer.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I mean, the thing is like, I gave an example of like, we have partners that implement our product. We have partners like Intel, Dell, HP. I mean, you think of all these different, mind you, these are big, but think down to your level. Who are companies that are complementary for you? All come together and do some kind of cool campaign. You're going to see a lot of these where Nike is paired with like some random company. Like, how does that work? But then it's like, wow, they had a mutual kind of campaign that worked. And so always look to collaborate with other companies that are in your space and maybe not compete with each other, because sometimes you might work with the same influencers and then it's like double, triple the amplification,
Yeah. And we've got Alex who said Ursula 101 about the online course. It's going to be titled Ursula 101.
Ursula 101.
I know. We love you, Alex. And I think you had a great question. Any thoughts on quantitative versus qualitative posts? There are many different viewpoints based on the medium. Ask Gary V. This is very true. So I think, Alex, you're talking about, the number versus the quality, obviously. And I think quality matters.
Yeah, and quality matters because we all know you put a little paid on it and suddenly, wow, we have 50,000 unique views. It's like, really? Did we?
Yeah.
I was in that and saw 2 people watching it. So you're right. And it is fascinating. We actually did a live stream event with Gary Vee and our numbers were way up because it was his audience. It was around entrepreneurs, but it shows you the power of someone like that. Now, mind you, Gary Vee is in a class of his own, but I think from that live stream, we had 50,000 unique views. And mind you, this is B2B. This is not sexy. This is a B2B, talking to customers, finding out, their pain points and how they got to be successful. But because Gary Vee was attached to it, his audience stayed and tuned in.
Yeah, exactly. And we've got, so the godfather here of Agorapulse, his whole job is running influencer campaigns and relationships. So Mike, you should have been here. You need to like pop in here and join us at the very end. And so you guys keep asking your questions. We're actually going to move to, it's almost 3:00. It's been an hour, guys. You are amazing.
Oh my gosh.
I know. If you still have questions, ask them, but we're going to run through some quick news. So really quick, I'm going to talk about it's social media news hour. We need to get some good sound effects, guys. So TikTok. So I want to first know, for anyone that's watching right now, are you active on TikTok? Are you actually creating videos? Or do you have an account and you're kind of observing? Because TikTok launched the link in bio and social commerce URLs in videos in the US. And so we all know it's owned by China. And we've all been wondering, okay, so are they going to evolve it like Instagram? And we have heard that they're going to maybe tailor or test some things like Instagram. So this is the newest thing. And what's so crazy, I think, about TikTok, and I think this may be one of the biggest surprises of 2019 when it comes to social media, is the fact that in February they had 1 billion downloads, and now they're at 1.5 billion downloads. They had like a brief little slowdown a couple months ago, but now they're coming back, and it's amazing how it's exploded. And it's really exploded in India, which is also fascinating. But now they're starting to test different things, and I think when it comes to the future, in 2020, they're going to become more innovative. And I do think that it's going to try and be more like Instagram or maybe even like Snapchat. And so I'm kind of intrigued because I back in 2016, everyone's like, you got to be on Snapchat. You have to, if you're a company, you have to.
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. And now, so TikTok, everyone's just like, I think everyone's like, okay, it's growing rapidly. We're aware of it, but what do we do? Does it fit our company? And Brian, I want you to comment in here. So Brian is active on TikTok. And it's the blue light. It's something with the police that is really big, where policemen humanize themselves and actually have some fun. And let's see. Yeah. Elena's never used TikTok. Easy to get engagement. Yeah. TikTok is the wild frontier like LinkedIn. Exactly, Alex. And so the future of TikTok is very interesting, but I would say if you haven't already, create an account, get your name, your username, and just observe and see, does it make sense at all, for your company or your brand? But it's kind of interesting. And Ursula, what's your take? Oh, Blue Line, hashtag Blue Line. Search that on TikTok and you'll get some really exciting videos. But Ursula, I'm intrigued at, what you think about TikTok and how rapidly it's growing.
Yeah, so my random just first thought is, one, I don't use TikTok. But you know what? It's interesting. All different mediums, you have to look into it and explore it and see where you can use it. Because remember, when MTV went live, right?
Yeah.
People were like, what's this? People, music videos. But look what MTV turned into they were the first ones doing these whole reality shows. So you never know where it's going to take you. And so you should look into it, because the next generation of buyers are using TikTok. So you should pay attention to where all the hip kids are and what they're doing. And I mean, I know TikTok has its place and can help right now with that generation. For B2B, I'm not quite sure yet, but surprise me. I have no idea. I got to go check it out.
Yeah, no, and it's so interesting. Yeah, just create an account. I have an account, but I don't look on it like I should. I really need to. But Brian said it perfectly. So he's maybe the most involved in TikTok right now in this audience. And Fabian said TikTok is a must for any influencer. And that's actually a good point, especially reaching the younger audience. But Brian said, going viral on TikTok isn't about the number of followers, rather your ability to leverage trends and create content in real time. It's what makes the platform unique. And so we really need like a TikTok expert on this show to talk us through, okay, how does it work and everything like that. And maybe Brian, you're a part of that show. I don't know, because it's really interesting. And like you said, Alex, I'm quietly observing from the sidelines too. So yeah, TikTok is interesting. It's going to grow even more, I think, in 2020. Is it going to slump down though, like Snapchat, or is it going to continue to increase? I'm curious to know what you guys think. Is it going to continue growing, guys? Like for the next couple of years, are we still going to be talking about it in 2022? Or is it going to reach a peak and then start to fall a little bit? So, and I actually want to know who's still active on Snapchat. I used to be a little bit, not so much anymore. Yeah, not at all. And so with that said, our second news piece. So Instagram is very good at grabbing popular things on different social media channels, like from Snapchat and other things. And they just launched a video music remix feature that basically kind of rivals TikTok. It lets you make a 15-second video clip set to music, and you can share them on your stories with the potential for them to go viral on a new top reels section of explore. And very similar to TikTok, users can soundtrack their reels with a big catalog of music or borrow the audio from anyone else's video to create a remix of their meme or joke. And so now it's only limited to, so they're testing this. Instagram is testing this in Brazil.
Which is smart.
Yeah.
Brazil is huge with Facebook and Instagram and all the socials. So that's smart.
Yeah. And I think so. And I also want to.
SAP's in there. Ha ha. See the advertisement? I love it.
Look at that.
But it's like, what are we talking about? No, anyhow, sorry.
We told them to put it in there, Ursula. We totally did that. But, and that's why, like, I love Instagram, and I want to know who's watching what your favorite social channel is to consume information and engage with people. Instagram and Facebook are mine, and actually Twitter too, I guess, but probably Instagram tops them all. And so if they start integrating something similar to what TikTok has, or, that option, it's going to continue to keep them growing, which makes you wonder, is Instagram just going to continue to trump all other social media channels because it's going to grab the best of what others are doing and incorporate it in? Or, do you think it might actually reach a peak and kind of fall too? But I think this is interesting. And if it goes well in Brazil, I'm excited to try it out in the US. So,
and I think that something with TikTok is it brings that authentic fun side, right?
Yes.
Because
yes,
you think, oh, it's just for kids, but it can really showcase yourself in a different light. And maybe it brings out your true self.
Yeah, exactly. And so I think it's a great way to humanize your brand if you do it right. If you're a serious brand, or if there's like other things going on, it may not quite make sense. But, I think there are probably clever ways, if you haven't thought about it yet, that you could use. So I think it's very fascinating, very interesting. And our last piece of news is that Facebook kind of, on the DL launched an image editing app called Whale. It's basically intended to generate memes that can be easily edited and shared across different social and messaging apps. And I'm interested, Brian, have you tried Whale? Though actually, I think it's only available in Canada, so you haven't. Anybody from Canada that's watching, I'm so curious to know. So, but the article, Business Insider, they were able to access it and use it. And the interesting thing that they said, there are a lot of images of watermelons, and it's very odd. They're not sure why there's a lot of watermelons incorporated in their images, but there's 90 stock photos to choose from, and a lot of them have to do with watermelon. They're kind of wacky. A couple of them, one man using 2 toilet rolls as binoculars, a man with a watermelon head, a woman holding a carp, 2 giggling nuns, and a cat owner hissing back at their cat. So these are some of this is very interesting. So they're testing this out in Canada right now. So it's interesting, the different countries where they get access to different things. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Yeah, sorry, you're not Canadian. I should know. I thought you were, Brian. It's okay. I'm actually 3% Canadian, guys, but I don't have access because
3%.
I really am. We did one of those things with what's it called, where you do like the swab and
23andMe or whatever the genetic.
Yeah. Actually, my dad did it. We found out he's 6% Canadian, so I'm 3%. So, which is kind of exciting. But yeah, so I'm interested to know if you guys are excited about it. Would you use it if it became available wherever you live? Does it matter? And some of the images that they chose are kind of interesting too with the watermelon. I'm not sure if there's a thing there that I'm missing. But yeah, and also Brian dropped another article in there too to read. So yeah, if you're excited about it. Yeah,
memes. I don't know. My kids like to create their own memes, and they're big skiers. And so during the winter, they have a special Instagram account that it's all like the funny stuff around their teams, and they make their own memes. And so then again, that's that generation that's going to become the buyers, and they need to be entertained, and they like to bring their friends into it to be part of the joke or part of the story. So who knows where this could go?
Well, and it's interesting too, on that note, one of the companies that I worked for previously started just a cat Facebook page of just memes. They just posted memes. That's all they did. And they grew it like amazing. Like the numbers were through the roof. We're like, really? They're just cat memes. There's nothing really going into the strategy, and it somehow grew it. So There may be something there. I'm not though. I'm not sure though. Alex says many memes are beat up like a dead horse, in my opinion. Alex, I love you. You're awesome. Thank you for joining us. Oh, and Fabian said the best TikTok account to watch is Will Smith. They are super creative.
Absolutely, I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah.
Yeah, Fabian, I will definitely do that. And if anyone else has a recommendation, definitely chime in and let us know. And then Don said, just curious, any concern about TikTok owned by the Chinese? Yeah, there have been some concerns about that too. Which is very also interesting with what they could do, political stuff, all sorts of things. So yeah, I think people are, concerned, but I feel like we don't know enough to have something happen or really be, too crazy concerned yet. Okay, guys, now we're up to trivia. So the fun thing about this, Ursula, is we're not going to give the answers away, but you have the opportunity, whoever answers these correctly, both of them correctly, can win an Agora Pulse hat. Or actually a t-shirt, I should say, or a mug. It's a t-shirt or a mug. It's your choice. So we like to have a little fun. So I don't know if you saw, Ursula, and anyone who's watching, but Promo did their annual video marketing study, and they asked 500 people in-depth questions about their video consumption habits. And I thought these were kind of really fascinating. So I'm not going to give away the answer to them, but I want you, when you do answer them though, say one and then dash A, B, C, or D so we know which question you're answering. And you have to answer them both correctly to be in the running to win an Agora Pulse mug or a t-shirt. But the first question is, what percentage of people watch videos with the sound on in Promo study? Is it A, 45%, B, 53%, C, 62%, or D, 71%? And I'm going to caveat this quick because you hear this stat a lot at conferences where people are like, yeah, 80 or more than 80% of people watch videos with the sound off because, they're kind of scrolling through while they're in a meeting or before a meeting in the elevator. But I think and I was very shocked by the answer to this, which might give the answer away of how high it was. But, and I maybe probably totally did give it away, but what people don't realize is the AirPods and other devices that allow you to have the sound on on your mobile device. And so you can listen to it. And I know the stat over 80%, like I've heard that even 3 or 4 years ago, but I bet that's changed and people watch it with the sound on more now because we have the AirPods. So I'm interested to know. Let's see if anyone's actually guessing or getting it correct. Yeah. Brian thought it was lower than all those. I know, me too, Brian. But it's surprising. So we need to change stats in our presentations. So the second question is, what percentage of people watch 5 to 10 videos per day based on Promo study? Is it A, 27%, B, 36, C, 52, or D, 61? And so a lot of us think, video, or you hear this a lot, video is king. Brian always says good content is king, which is true. But I was shocked by this as well, just because I thought there was a lot more video consumption. I'm giving away the answers, guys.
But Jen, the question though here would be like, are these 1-minute videos? Are they 5-minute videos? Because I think all of us I probably consume at least 10 a day because they're little ones, right?
Yeah. And I wonder if it's, and I will actually have to look up that exact stat. But either way, I was still kind of surprised. Terry says B. Yeah. And Don says, I'm with you. I would have guessed way lower. And I think when it comes to the audio, we just forget that the AirPods, there are so much better technology where you don't have the wires in your way, it's wireless. And so it's just so much easier to do that. Oh, there's the study. I'm going to have to scroll through it to see, but yeah. They have the answer. They have the stat right in this article. I know. I'm shocked too about this, and they've got so amazing stats in here. So you guys should check it out for sure, just because it was interesting. And then they interviewed 500 people, which is a pretty good sample to really understand, how people consume things on social media, video, everything like that. So you guys are awesome. Lisa says, I need your help with the answer, Jennifer. Keep talking. I know. I'm going to give you guys all the answers. So I was really shocked by the first one because it was really high. And then the second one was really low. So that should give the answers away completely to all of you guys. So whoever answers it first correctly wins. With that said, Ursula, we've gone on almost an hour and 15 minutes.
People
Ursula,
are still watching.
I
Thank
know.
you.
You guys are amazing. We love you guys. I wish we could just do this all the time, like just stream it 24 hours, but we can't because Ursula has a job. I have a job. My boss is the producer. He has a meeting at 3:30. So we have to, or 2:30 his time. So we have to go, but we love you guys so much. Thank you so much for joining us. And Ursula, thank you so much for joining us. And please share where people can find your content, your book, where they can follow you.
Well, it's just my name, Ursula Ringham. So Ursula, Ringham, Ringham. So that's website, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, everything. It's a unique name, so I was able to get all of it. So just, you look me up. If you do a Google search, I'm out there. You can find me.
You have a lot of fans. Terry says, great show. Dawn says, you guys rock. What a great show. And it's all because of you, Ursula, and your amazing knowledge. You're so incredible and you're so wonderful. And really quick, before we leave, we do have our Social Success Summit 2.0. And we do this. This is free. And basically, we do it basically binge watch style. So these have been available since I think November 14th. And they're going to be available through December 12th. So that's next week. So you basically have a week to watch 27 amazing sessions, and it stems from email marketing. We do have a lawyer on there that talks about things you need to remember when it comes to anything legal with social media. We have, I talk about content. We have Kim Garst on there, building your content calendar. So you don't have to watch them all, but all you have to do is go to the link and you just pick and choose what you want to watch. Or if you have a team of people, you assign people, okay, watch these 5, take notes, and we'll meet up together and talk about, what it was all about. So definitely make a point to check this out. This is for you, so you can make 2020 and beyond the best years ever and really wow your bosses and everything. We've got Mike Alton on there, Douglas Carr, so many amazing people. We need to have you on here, Ursula, next time around. Yeah.
Let me know.
Yes. Well, we're going to be doing another one in the next couple of months. So we might knock at your door. And I think everyone here would want that as well. So definitely check that out. And next week, next Friday, for our show, we kind of have a whole end of the year wrap up where we're going to have multiple guests talking about what they thought the biggest surprises, biggest announcements were of 2019 and their predictions for 2020. We're going to have Kim Garst, Ian Cleary, Brian Fanzo, Jen Herman, Judy Fox, Tony Christensen, Stephanie Liu, Owen Video, and Scott Ayers. They are the hosts of our Social Media Lab, our other live show, Jessica Phillips and Bella Vasta. And these are experts ranging from Facebook groups, relationship marketing, live video, Facebook ads, Instagram, LinkedIn, just millennial marketing, anything you could think of, we have it there. So that's our big 2-hour year-end finale show. And I wanted it to be 2 hours. So my boss, who is producing this on the back end, got a little bit more stressed about it. And I wanted to make him work harder. So that's why I did it. I'm just kidding. We wanted to have just a fun show wrapping everything up. And so everyone, thank you so much for joining us. And Ursula, thank you so much for your knowledge. You are amazing. You are incredible. Like, seriously, you're wonderful. Thank you. And for everyone who joined us, thank you so much. And we hope to see you next week. Actually, changed algorithms. Yes, 2020. And thanks, Dawn. Dawn said fantastic content on the summit. And there's no way all those talkative people will fit in 2 hours. That's a good point. I told my boss to cancel his meeting that he has usually at 90 minutes. And yeah, we may go 3. We'll see. We'll see. But Ursula, thank you so much. You're so amazing. Everyone, thanks for joining us, and make it a great rest of the day and weekend. Bye, guys.